Good afternoon, 104. This is your second week of online instruction, so we are on April 13th, and we're working today on pages 76, 77, one piece on 78 and one piece on 81. So again, this is written in the syllabus, but it's also listed individually online. If you take a look at going down week-wise, go to your week of April 13th. So you'll notice that it says we've got a new rhythm today that we need to talk about. And this new rhythm is on page 76, and it's a dotted quarter note. Now, we've added dots before, so this isn't a new concept. If you think back to the very first weeks when we were together, and we had a half note, which was worth 2 beats, and we said that if we put a dot on the side of it, the dot added half of the original note beat back to it, so it now became 3. So we were careful to make that distinction of a dot being on the side of it, meaning that it's adding half of the original note value, versus the top or the bottom, which was our staccato. So this time, what we're going to find in our pieces here that we're working on this week is that that dot is added to a quarter note. So it's the same concept. My quarter note is originally worth 1 beat. My dot is going to add half of that back again. So half of 1 would be 1 1/2. So that dotted quarter note is worth 1 1/2. So if I'm counting with my subdivision, I have 1 and 2. That means that it's always going to be followed by something that has to pick up that other half a beat. So it's going to be followed by either an 8th note or an 8th rest. So we need to be careful about subdividing, just like we were when we were working on our 8th notes and our counting. We need to be careful about subdividing. So if you join me on the top of page 76, we've got 2 different clapping examples here that we can work through. So the first one is America, My Country 'Tis of Thee, which has that dotted rhythm in it. Underneath, they're showing you that that dot actually is working like a tie. It's easier to read it as a dot on the side. But let's just take that right hand, just those first 2 measures, and let's just clap that rhythm. Remember that as we start with quarter notes, we are going to subdivide though immediately. 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3. And so it sounds like and it feels like a long short, doesn't it? All right, now if you liked counting the type of notes, if you found that you were steadier with that instead of counting 1 and 2 and or subdividing, that certainly works too. You could do quarter, 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 dot, 8th quarter. So you decide which one feels steadier to you. Let's see if we can put our 2 hands together. They've got this written in 2 lines here. Again, you can clap on your knees. I'm going to do on my piano here. I'm going to put the cover down just so that you can hear my hands a little bit better. So we'll start with that right hand, what we just clapped. But then when we get to the 3rd measure, let's bring in that left hand where it has a chance to do that rhythm too. 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and left and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and. Now be careful when you get to those last 2 measures. Just because we're done with 8th notes, don't all of a sudden stop doing your 8th note, because we have found that in the past it's easy then to rush these or go too fast. Let's try the Merrily We Roll Along clapping. We'll go ahead and do both hands here. So I've got 4 beats into my measure. So count yourself off an empty measure of 4 so you feel that pulse first. And remember, 1, 2, 3, 4, we need to be smaller than that. We've got to subdivide down to that and to make that nice and even. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and left and 2 and 3 and 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and right and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and together. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Yeah, excellent. So clapping through your rhythms as we look at these new pieces is a great way to get the feel of that pulse without having to worry about the notes and the rhythm and the fingering all at once. Now that most of you aren't with a keyboard or in our lab anymore, remember that metronome is a great way to practice, and a lot of you are having a great success with the metronome. So look through, there's numerous free apps that you can put on your phone, and remember that you can put that beat fast enough so you feel that as an eighth note, and that's going to help you with this new rhythm too. So let's take a look at the pieces that I'd like you to be practicing this week. On page 76, you have Ode to Joy. So the first thing you're going to need to do is figure out the key signature, isn't it? Let's do this one together. So I've got 2 sharps. We just figured this one out a couple different times last week. I'm going to look at that last sharp, F, A, C sharp, up half a step, giving me that key of D. So for Ode to Joy, tonic is D. This is a melody that I bet you might recognize. And here's our new rhythm, 1 and 2. So there's that new rhythm. But familiar melody used in his 9th Symphony. It's also a hymn that's used in many churches. So this is a great piece. It's a little bit longer to think about learning strategies. We were working a lot when we were together last about not just learning a piece going from top to bottom, and this piece is a perfect example. I would learn that first line, I would clap the rhythm, I would read the letter names if you're still feeling weak in one of the clefs, I would finger it, watching the motion, and then my last step would be to build my D tonic and then put pitch in it. After I've done all those steps with the first line, the next logical place to go would be the second line, and not because it's the second line, but because it is the exact same melody. It just is the left hand. So do the same thing with the left hand. You might not need to tap the rhythm again, but I definitely would finger through it, watching the shape of it without the pitch, and then when you're ready, finding that D position and putting it together. Then practice lines 1 and 2 together. Now, after you've got 1 and 2 together, where would you go next? Line 3 or line 4? Line 4. Even though 3 is next in line chronological, go to line 4. And why would I do that? Because if you look, it's the exact same melody that you had in line 2. It's one note going one direction different than line 1. But so it's familiar. So remember we said higher repetition is going to get you muscle memory. So that would be my next step, would be getting my hands to work together with this melody. They're in parallel motion, so it shouldn't be too difficult. 1 and 2. Then I would practice lines 1, 2, 4, then go back and add in line 3. So this is always a fun piece to work on with it being a familiar melody. On page 77, British folk song, there's that key signature that doesn't work for our tricks. You've had to memorize that 1 flat is tonic of F. So nothing unusual in British folk song. Lining up your F position, count that new dotted rhythm. French folk song, I've got 3 sharps. This is one that we have not figured out together. If I give us a quick staff here with our 3 sharps, how it's looking in the right hand, my last sharp is right here. And notice that it's sitting up on top of that F line. Again, I'm looking at what's going right through the middle, and it's a space. So I've got every good boy does fine. F is my line. So the space that this sharp is on is G. So G sharp, I'm not done yet though. What do I have to do from that G sharp? Go up half a step. So up half a step is telling me that tonic is going to be A for French folk song. I have one more question for you on French folk song. Look at your meter or your time signature. What is it? 3, 4. So how many beats should I have in a measure? 3. Take a look at your first measure though. You've got 2 eighth notes and then a bar line. That's only giving you 1 beat. What happened to the other 2? Take a look at the very end of the piece. At the end of the piece, there's a half note, and there's the other 2. So this piece starts with, the technical word for it is anacrusis, or the theoretical word. This piece starts with an anacrusis. If you especially played a band instrument growing up, you probably have heard this called a pickup or an upbeat. A composer can do that. They can split the value of the meter between the beginning and the end if they don't want that complete measure. It happens a lot of times with pieces that have words or songs that have words to fit the syllables or the prose or the poetry that they're using. Sometimes they just want that downbeat to be on the C sharp rather than the A. So as you're starting, after you have your A position lined up, make sure you count to 2, 1 and 2. And so that you feel that coming in on beat 3 or coming in on that offbeat. Watch out for your ties in the left hand. There are 2 other pieces using this new rhythm that I'd like you to take a look at this week. And these 2 are a little bit more challenging than the Ode to Joy, British folk song, and French folk song. So make sure you have those down first. When you're ready for a challenge, if you turn to page 78, there's Home Sweet Home. Again, this is a fun one because it's a familiar melody. Tonic is D. We've already played in this for Ode to Joy. Do you have an anacrusis? You sure do. Starts on that upbeat. This one, the coordination is difficult. It is in parallel motion for the most part. There's a couple places with contrary, but the left hand's really moving a lot. So my suggestion for practice for this one is to play one hand and just tap along with where that other hand's going to strike. You can get it to the point where you're moving the fingers. Do it the opposite. When you put it together, start to think about what's together, what's by itself. Think about where you've got the parallel motion. 1 and 2 and 3. Skip, interval of 5. So lots of detail in this one. The last piece that I'd like you to take a look at, which is also a challenge one, is way over. Oh, actually, I wrote this wrong, didn't I? I put Old Aunt Kate on page 81. So we will just leave that. I will tell you, I won't change it in the syllabus, but I will tell you that what I meant to write there was Hush Little Baby on 83, because this one also uses that dotted rhythm. 1 sharp is going to give you a tonic of G. You've got some intervals of 5 and 2 and 3 in that left hand. But again, a nice familiar melody, which I think always makes it fun. There's that dotted rhythm. Out in this one, notice that in measure 7 you've got an RIT. That's an abbreviation for the word retard, which in music means to slow down. That's not uncommon to see at the end of a piece, so that's almost like a music box gradually getting to the end or gradually slowing down rather than just screeching to a halt. The other thing I want to point out is notice in the very first measure between the left hand starts on a D and the right hand starting with a B, you've got a line connecting those. That is nothing musical or a way to play. It's not telling you how to do it a certain way. It's showing you that were you to sing, the melody actually starts in the left hand, which is unusual. Hush, little, and then it goes up to the right hand. So you have 5 different pieces here using this new dotted quarter note rhythm. Again, if you need more help with this or you want to do a little live practice session together, please feel free to shoot me an email and we can find a way to connect on FaceTime or Zoom. I'm happy to do that, happy to practice with you. Sometimes it's very helpful to have a one-on-one interaction. So for this week's daily grade, which will be daily grade 6, you are playing your choice of one of these songs that use that dotted rhythm. So please not Old Aunt Kate, there's no dotted rhythm in that one, but either of these other 4. Playing it, if you are doing non-keyboard version, take a look at your syllabus. I want a scan or picture of all of the pieces since it's easier than the coordination with key signature, note names, rhythm, and definition of all terminology written in. So this is for daily grade 6. Please make sure that you turned in both of your daily grades for the previous week. Daily grade 4 was your key signature worksheet. That was a written grade for everyone. And daily grade 5 was your choice of one of those first 4 pieces that we were working on with identifying key signatures. Again, a video of you playing, your choice of one of those if you're doing the playing option. If you were doing the written option, I wanted a scan of 2 of those pieces or a picture of 2 of those pieces with key signature, note names, and written rhythm. All right, thank you. I hope you enjoy these pieces. It's lots of fun to have some fun melodies that you know and that you enjoy playing. Please feel free to contact me for any help or if you'd like to get together on a one-to-one fashion. Have a great week.